What's up, you guys? It's your boy Xander here, back with another video, and today we're going to talk about episode 9 of Justin Bieber's 10-part series, Seasons. This episode was titled Album on the Way, but before we get into that, I do want to say that if the lighting's a little weird, it's just because I bought a bunch of new camera equipment and I'm still just trying to play around with it and get it just right. But this episode was definitely a different tone than the last. So the last episode was Justin and Hailey's wedding, which was so amazing. I will link the review to that episode down below. I can definitely say this episode was definitely a different tone than the one that was previously released. I really liked it for different reasons. This episode, it opens up with Justin talking about, being emotional. He talks about how there were times when he would talk to Hailey and his mom and things like that, and he'd just cry and he'd just break down because he's an emotional person. But what really stuck with me about this episode is Justin basically says that as a celebrity, you're not allowed to be human. You're not allowed to experience the typical range of human emotion that most people are. So he was talking about how when people would see him out and if he was crying or if he looked angry, they were just like, oh, he's having a breakdown or he's this or he's that. And he's just an emotional person, and he feels like as a celebrity, you're not allowed to be human. And I think that, is really true, and I think that's a large part of some of the stuff that was going on with Justin, in his past, and that's why he is taking the time off that he has. One thing I can say, he also was talking about how frustrating it was because he wasn't really sure how to communicate effectively. And, when you're young and when you're emotional, when you're a guy, there's already so much stigma attached to, expressing your feelings and crying and things like that. So I can only imagine how hard that was for him. Another thing that I will say is this episode really focused on some of the more background stuff that wasn't studio related. So you got to see him on the set of the Changes promo shoot, and then you also got to see him filming Yummy. And one of the most interesting things that came out of that scene was that you get to see that Justin Bieber had a health coach on set. He's essentially been using a health coach. He's had someone with him to kind of help him with his whole spectrum of emotions. So the health coach talks about, Justin's mindset, Justin's mental health and things like that, and how Scooter asked for him to be on set just to kind of watch Justin. So one of the things you see during, the Yummy behind the scenes is that Justin at some point gets overwhelmed just because it's a lot. He's diving back into things. You have all these people and all this stuff. And so they do something called havening. Now, this is a concept that I have heard of before as a psych major, but it was really interesting to kind of see it in action. You get to see, Justin working with his health coach and havening. And havening is basically a way of self-coping. It's a way of triggering happy emotions and endorphins and things like that in order to make you feel better. So it's basically just comforting yourself. So Hailey talks about it, and the health coach talks about how they kind of like collaborate with each other, Justin and him, and they work to make sure, that Justin's doing what he needs to do to take care of himself. And I really, really love the transparency in this episode. Like I've said throughout the whole series, Justin's being really transparent here, and he's putting a lot out that a lot of people, typically wouldn't. So to see the fact that, part of his journey to recovery and things like that, and a lot of the changes he's been making, you get to kind of see the good and the bad in that. And I think that it's so awesome that he has a health coach there working with him, because that's how you sustain recovery. And so it was really cool and a little heartbreaking to kind of see that Justin did talk about like how when he's on stage it's something different. It's kind of like the whole world goes away kind of thing. So that's good to see, but I really just liked seeing that he's going about recovery the right way and he's taking the steps that are necessary. So I love that. The health coach did say at one point that the key was to create, I'm going to look at my notes just because it was specific wording that I wanted to touch on. He said the key for Justin's recovery and sustained recovery is a structured, organized, predictable environment. And when you hear that and you think like a mega pop star, I don't know how predictable that life is. I've never lived it. But I'm really just hoping that they can maintain that structured, organized, and predictable environment. I know that a lot can happen when you're traveling the world and when you're, interacting with millions and millions of fans. So I think that, you know, it's probably going to be a challenge for Justin and his team, but I'm really hoping, you know, that he can do what he needs to do to sustain long-term recovery. So I'm definitely, shout out to you, Justin, shout out to you, Scooter, shout out to you guys and his whole team for doing what he needs to do to get better. And I think that that's really cool and that's really important, just because we want Justin around for a long time. This episode was really good. It had a lot of good content in it. They were very transparent, and it was perhaps one of my favorites. I would have to say my favorite part of the episode was definitely the beginning, when Justin Bieber's talking about the lack of ability to be a human in today's age. So that was definitely my favorite part. But let me know down in the comments what you guys' favorite part was. We are on episode 9. We got 1 episode left for the finale, so I've been reviewing every single episode. I got the playlist down in the description. Of course, I'm going to do a video on the season finale, or the season's finale, and then I'm going to do another video just talking about, rounding it out, talking about my thoughts on the series as a whole. This is Anderson's, guys, and I'm signing out.